Item 19 is the second reading of an ordinance.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Before we actually begin, I would advise the commission if at this time to disclose ex parte communications if they have any.
On this item or all items?
Let's start with this item. We would do this item. I've been advised to do it at the beginning.
Before you read it?
No, I can read it first. But, okay.
Go ahead.
An ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Pompano Beach, Florida, rezoning property located on the southeast corner of the intersection of A1A and Northeast 16th Street, commonly known as 1508 North Ocean Boulevard, from RM-45 multifamily residence 45 to PD-I planned development infill, providing for severability, providing for an effective date.
So moved.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved and second for discussion. At this point in time, I'd like to disclose that I have had ex parte communications with both those in favor and opposed to it, including the developer and developers' representatives. It's like I said, both in favor of it and opposed to. So I just want to put telephone, email, and letters, and it's all available for public inspection. Is there anyone else who'd like to?
As well as have I. Thank you.
Is that acceptable, or do we need to be more specific?
No, please be more specific.
More specific. We each need to be specific about the communications.
Met with the developer, received emails both for and against, had telephone calls with residents, and both for and against.
Very good. Commissioner McGee?
I have also had communications with the developer, with residents for, with residents against, emails, phone calls, text messages, in-person reach-outs. I believe that might be it.
Okay, very good.
Lots of communication with everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Commissioner McMahon?
I've also had communication with the developer, residents through email, phone calls for and against this project.
Very good. Commissioner Perkins, any comments?
Yes, I've met with the developer as well, received emails for and against, text, phone calls as well.
Got it. Okay. And Vice Mayor Moss he's not here right at the moment, but I'm sure he can chime in when he gets back.
Looks like he's on his way.
Well, we'll go ahead and get started. Go ahead, David. Mr. Recor.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. David Recor, Director of Development Services for the city. On occasion, the Development Services Department utilizes outside agencies to assist in the review of planned developments and rezonings. And you're going to see a familiar face to some of you this evening. I'd like to introduce Sarah Sinatra Gold with Alvin Giordano and Associates. She is the Director of Planning with CGA, and she is going to be making the presentation for second reading this evening.
Very good. Good evening.
Good evening. For the record, Sarah Sinatra Gould, Calvin Giordano and Associates. What you have before you, as you know, is the second reading of a rezoning ordinance for Ocean Park. The applicant is requesting to rezone the property at 1508 North Ocean Boulevard from RM45, multifamily residential 45, to PDI, Plan Development Infill. As this is second reading, I'll provide you a summary of the application and, of course, be available for questions. The property is located at the southeast corner of the intersection of A1A and Northeast 16th Street. The property is 0.68 gross acres with 10-foot right-of-way dedication requirement along A1A. This leaves 0.62 net acres of developable land. The applicant is proposing 28 residential units along with 1,500 to 3,500 square feet of commercial development on the ground floor. The commercial development is what's required for the PDI district to allow for mixed use. I just wanted to note that the proposed development is subject to the Air Park Overlay District requirements and must obtain an air park obstruction permit concurrently with the site plan approval. At its regular meeting on December 20th, 2017, the Planning and Zoning Board unanimously recommended denial of the proposed rezoning. This was due to the lack of mixed use and lack of interaction with the park, and also the park improvements were not specified. Since that time, the developer has modified several key features of the PDI development. They are proposing at this point in this application to increase the mixed-use commercial space. Previously, they were proposing a police substation and unmanned kiosks. That has been increased to the 1,500 to 3,500 square feet of commercial space. They are also proposing to decrease the building heights by 42 feet. The previous application, the heights were 248 feet. This application, the applicant is requesting 205 feet 6-inch height. This application also addresses the outstanding comments that city staff had. I want to point out that this applicant is also proposing a developer's agreement, and it contemplates a variety of physical improvements to North Ocean Park. And obviously the park is located immediately adjacent to the building, to the proposed site. A number of city departments, those departments include Development Services and Parks and Recreation, Utilities, Public Works, and Engineering, have provided feedback on the proposed developer's agreement. The agreement indicates that the proposed agreement must be heard also by the Parks and Recreation Board. If this application is approved by the City Commission, it will then be heard by the Parks and Recreation Board. And of course, staff is available for any questions if you have any.
Very good. At this point, I'd like to recognize Vice Mayor Moss is back, and
Just for the record, I'd like to disclose that I have had ex parte communication with the developer. I've already also received numerous telephone calls and emails from people, so I'd like to get that on the record. I have spoken with a number of people about this issue. Thanks.
Very good. Thank you. Does the applicant wish to make a presentation?
Good evening, Hope Calhoun. I feel like I'm screaming at you guys. Hope Calhoun, attorney here on behalf of the applicant. We had a very robust discussion on first reading. We've had a presentation tonight by city staff. Just by way of reiteration, I want to just let you all know that you heard staff say tonight that they had a number of concerns when the item went to planning and zoning, and you heard we addressed those concerns. We as a part of addressing those concerns, we reached out to the community. As late as last night, we presented our proposal to the Economic Development Board of the city. And I was not present at the meeting, but someone from our team was present if you want to hear it for yourselves. But it is my understanding they were very supportive of what we're doing, and they see it as an economic driver for the city. Other than that, again, we are very excited about moving this rezoning application forward. You have in your backup materials our application, which speaks to our compliance with the rezoning criteria. We recognize that you've seen a site plan because ultimately we will bring one before the city. We just want you to know, to see an idea of what's to come. That site plan will eventually go to the Planning and Zoning Board once we get past second reading tonight. We appreciate your time and consideration. I'm going to be brief because you have a long agenda, lots of people in the audience. We're happy to answer as many questions as you have, and I would, of course, like to reserve time for rebuttal after public hearing input.
Very good. Thank you. At this time, we will open it up to the public for testimony. Please try and keep your comments to 3 minutes. There's a lot of folks who want to speak, and if there's one particular person who kind of can speak for everybody, if you guys are comfortable with that. Otherwise, of course, everyone's very very good. Everyone's welcome. Absolutely. Please.
Mayor?
Yes.
Just wanted to interject. We did have 12 people signed up regarding the item.
12.
But 12, I'm not quite sure how many people are going to
12 people indicated they wanted to speak during the audience to be heard?
Well, they did sign up for that item.
Okay, because, whether they sign up or not, they still have a right to speak, to give testimony in this regard. Very good. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Just name, and for this, please indicate, give your name, address, and indicate that you have been sworn, because if you have not been sworn, we need to have Asalita swear you in. So please, name, address, and indicate if you have been sworn. Go ahead.
Good evening, Sandy Von Staden, 3201 Beacon Street, Pompano, Hillsborough Shores, also owner of a condominium in North Beach. I have been sworn. I respect the The mayor and the commission want to move this along to limit people speaking, but we don't want to leave a false impression that there are a relatively equal number of proponents and opponents of this project. So to that point, you're going to hear testimony tonight regarding a petition that was circulated regarding opposition to this particular development by people who don't want development over 105 feet and don't want commercial on a residential site. There is someone who's going to speak after me who initiated the petition and can speak to it, but I simply want to state for the record that over 1,300, almost 1,400 people have signed a petition opposing this project in a paper petition. There are 232 who signed the petition online. I swear to this testimony. These are individuals, they are our neighbors, they are our tourists who come here, our visitors, our people throughout our city. And not everybody is comfortable standing up. There are 432 signatures from North Beach, 154 signatures from Hillsborough Shores. On the first reading, there was one family from Hillsborough Shores who stood to support the project. I also want to speak to a couple of commissioners in particular. Our Vice Mayor, Barry Moss, you indicated you visited the site and you looked at the three towers. I invite you and everybody to look beyond the three towers of Tiffany Gardens that are considerably less in height than this, and look inside to the people who live there. There are 166 signatures from people who live in that building. Commissioner Eaton, I invite you to reconsider what you and your colleagues voted on planning and zoning. 6 no vote, and the fact that the representative for the city last time said there were only slight modifications. The real slight I see is a slight to your colleagues in planning and zoning with a 6-0 no vote. And to our own district commissioner, please consider these over 1,500 people's voices. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, may I?
No, it's Commissioner McGee. At this point in time, it's testimony from the public.
Okay.
We'll have the opportunity later. Thank you. Next speaker.
Hi, good evening, Mayor Hardin and Commissioners. My name is Jeannie Schermisser, and I live at Tiffany Gardens North, 1620 North Ocean Boulevard in Pompano Beach. I just handed to Mayor Hardin a notarized affidavit testifying to the 1,395 signatures on a paper petition, as well as 232 signatures on an online petition that were obtained opposing this rezoning. I don't sit well with being accused of lying under oath to the city commissioners, so shame on you, Jan Park, for your accusations. In addition, all of you have a visual handout on the sun shadows that will cover the TG community pool area from November 21st through January 21st, with the worst possible time on and before and after December 21st, which is winter solstice. This will have a damaging effect on our community. Shadows will be at their worst from 2 to 4 p.m. daily, something that the developers did not show in their presentation materials to the city. I wonder why. Today is a dark day for the city of Pompano Beach and the residents of North Beach. Today is a dark day for the people who will not be heard. It is a dark day for this commission and all elected government officials who do not represent the people who put them into office. The dark clouds of the storm are here. The lines are drawn. Our line is drawn in the sand to protect our unique neighborhood. Your line is unfortunately the bottom line. But the winds of change are blowing, the hurricane is coming, and the people are rising up. And we say, vote no, the towers must go. Corruption must go. Because when the dust settles, the construction crews drive away and the developers have deposited their checks. We, the people, will be the ones left to have to live with those two towers. They will become permanent part of our landscape, forever changing the direction of future growth, that they will never go away. We are here to tell you that we will not tolerate that, and what one cannot tolerate, one must change. So let's review facts. Let's scrutinize plans. Are any of you sitting up there qualified to do this job? 4 people without expertise should not be allowed to go against the majority of the people who will be affected in the rezoning of this property. Is this system rigged? So let a fair review process begin. Table this rezoning until we can accomplish or vote no. These are the only reasonable choices. We will all remember what you vote tonight. Vote no. Thank you.
Ma'am, just for the record, were you sworn? Yes. Thank you. Next speaker. Just name, address, and indicate if you've been sworn. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor Harden, distinguished commissioners, good evening, and thank you once again for the opportunity to speak. For the record, my name is Gary Azarian, 1630 North Ocean Boulevard, and I have been sworn, sir. I ask once again for your vote in support of the Ocean Park residents' rezoning petition. This is a project that continues a long-range vision of a Pompano Beach that we as citizens can be proud of. Vibrant, youthful, diverse, inclusive, forward-thinking with a vision for the future, and not a proposed or a building that's allowed that will look like our past. As a direct abutter of the project and a resident of Tiffany Gardens, the project will raise my valuation, revitalize North Ocean Park and 16th Street, make the area safer and more inclusive for families, and add to the tax base and the economic growth of the city by improving an unsightly vacant lot. Our community, Tiffany Gardens, has long-range plans to improve our landscape, beachfront, common areas, clubhouse, our 16th Street boundary, and add security gating. That's the hope that we have for Tiffany Gardens. It's my opinion that working in conjunction with this project, we will add value to what we wish to accomplish in our community, provide a more safe and secure environment for our residents and the community, and enhance our quality of life. Thank you again for your past vote and support, and I hope that you reaffirm that vote with a positive vote again tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, please come forward. Don't be shy. Just name, address, and indicate if you've been sworn.
Mr. Mayor, my name is Jorge Robledo. I'm a longtime citizen of Pompano Beach. The address is 1800 South Ocean Boulevard.
And you have been sworn?
I would like to...
You've been sworn?
Yes, I have.
Very good.
This is to express my favorable opinion about the Ocean Park condo project for 5 positive impacts that I can see. Number 1, jobs to be generated on the construction and permanent jobs on services. Number 2, new investors that later will become owners and will attract more. Number 3, impacts in the area. Public parking spaces, improvement of the park, beachside cafe. Number 4, solid tax dollars for the city will come now. And number 5, finally, the increasing value of the properties nearby due to the quality of the project. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker. Just name, address, and indicate if you've been sworn, sir.
I haven't been sworn. Can I be sworn in?
Okay.
Do you solemnly, raise your right hand, do you solemnly swear affirm that the evidence you're about to give is the truth, nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Mayor Harden, City Commissioner, and City Manager. Carlton Johnson, Principal of Blanche Hilly High School, 1201 Northwest 6th Avenue, Pompano Beach, Florida, 66061. When I think about the economic development of Pompano Beach, I have to recall a drive that I took with a good friend of mine, and that was after the mayor prayer breakfast, Alonzo Morning. And when we drove around to Pompano Beach and we saw some of the most prominent projects that it had to offer to this community, knowing that my retirement would be soon, and I'll hope to be a resident of Pompano Beach at some point in my career. But when I heard some of my constituents like Lonzo Mourning and Shaquille O'Neal talk about residency in such a vibrant place, and when it comes to joining this community, it kind of struck me. It struck me because I know you heard the 45-minute speech that Lonzo Mourning spoke at Mayor Fisher's prayer breakfast, and I'll promise you, Mayor Harden, that I have someone to speak at your prayer breakfast.
All right.
But this is a rich community. It's an up and growing community. I've been a proud principal for 13 years. My children have benefited from this community with the resources and the economic development over many years. I see post-high school employment that's demonstrated for my students. I see them having an opportunity not to be on someone's street or impacting the crime rate in Pompano Beach, Florida, but going on someone's job from the east of Pompano to the west. Oftentimes we talk about every child deserves a quality education and every child should be a high school graduate. But I'm looking at post-employment for the students at Blantyre High School. And I support new projects in Pompano Beach. And my constituents and I will be on the phone with Alonzo Mourning and Shaquille O'Neal and say, with the residency and the safety and the building infrastructures in this rich community moving forward, I would like to be a part of it. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Next speaker. Just name, address, and indicate if you've been sworn.
I have sworn. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. I am resident of 1200 Hibiscus Avenue at District 1, and member of the CERT program in Pompano. I'm here in order to have some thoughts, to share some thoughts and ideas with all of you. I know that new projects in any city come with some things that people will like and will dislike. And of course, someone will be happy, someone will be sad. But what is important to know is that we have to move forward. Pompano Beach cannot stay where it is at this time. We have to look forward because it's not only for the present time, but for the future generation, what kind of city what we want. This project is not only an example that will bring something good for the city. It's not a dark day. It's a brilliant day because this is the place that we can share some ideas, some against, some in favor. But I do believe that this project and others that you have in the city is giving to the Pompano City residents a balance for good. And this is one of the examples that we really want to support because we think that we have to move forward. They have a balance for the quality of life that the neighborhood will have and what the Pompano City will have to. Thank you so much.
Sorry, did you give your name, sir? I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Excuse me?
I didn't catch your name.
Sergio Escobar.
Thank you. Okay, sir. Thank you. Next speaker. Good evening, sir.
Well, good evening, sir. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dr. Robert Parks, and I represented most of you on the Broward County School Board for 24 years. And during that time, I have to tell you that we've been able to accomplish quite a bit. We built many schools in Coconut Creek, many programs at International Baccalaureate, medical magnet school, engineering magnet school at Ely. But more important, one of the schools that I'm more in favor of, all of a sudden I've got an interest in it, Pompano Beach High School, reopening that particular school. The other night I looked at the video, and in that video, it brought me back to a real tough memory. In 1984, and you might have been there, 1985, where the school board attended a meeting at a Pompano Beach High School gym. All the kids were there, all the parents were there. Interesting, so were school board members. And the reason that I bring this up, because as a former teacher at Pompano Beach High School, later on at professor at Florida University, and now at the Research Park at Florida Atlantic University, I decided to run for the Broward County School Board because not one member at that board meeting, those board members, heard the concerns or cared for those who spoke because they knew it was a quote, unquote, done deal that had already been done. And the board members had other reasons for most of you that don't know that, because if they closed Pompano, guess where the schools went? Out west. I had a reaction one time. In my position as a school board member, I've dealt with a lot of lobbyists with bond issues, school constructions, you name it. We know what the lobbyists do. When Sabia was being built, I ran into a lobbyist that lobbied me for bond issues with Broward County School Board, $200 million. Not a small fee, but as I walked up, she said to me, "What are you doing here?" I said, "Well, I want to talk about the growth in this area."
Continue on. Go ahead.
Yeah. And so anyway, from there, 3 things I'd like to bring to this commission. 1, get the real facts. And other people have addressed to it. Have you taken into account the density of this project, the impact of traffic on A1A, Northeast 14th Street, Atlantic Boulevard, and backup of traffic on the bridge openings on 14th Street and Atlantic Boulevard? The impact on our infrastructure and open space, the coming of the future Hidden Harbor project. That hasn't even been brought up in any of the videos. This area is already congested, and not only including the actual size of the property, that the 214 stories being built on top of a 5-story garage. Secondly, when you make promises to your constituents and residents like I did with reopening Pompano Beach High School, they will always remember your vote because it does affect them directly. The contractors who will build this proposed skyscraper, if approved, will walk away as financial winners, and you will never see them again unless they need your vote next time for a project that is up for bids. The losers in this case will be your constituents and the residents whose lives, like mine, I live at 288 at the 14th Street at the Point condominium. Mine will be negatively impacted by this project in our neighborhood. And last but not least, I want to thank Mayor Hardin and Commissioner Perkins for your no vote. And I hope some of you listen to that, because there are those out there who have worked hard for this city. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Mr. Parks, just for the record, you have been sworn. Just for the record, you have been sworn.
Yes, I have.
Very good. Thank you.
Yes, I have.
I should have checked earlier. Thank you. Next speaker. Thank you for your service, sir. I appreciate your service.
And thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. Well, I'd like to say that, but the school board is a little bit crazier.
Okay. Very good. Very good. Go ahead, sir. Just
Mayor, Commission,
name, address, and
afternoon. My name is Fabio Andrade. I live at 3013 Oakbrook Drive in the city of Weston. And yes, I have been sworn in.
Very good.
You may ask, what am I doing here? Well, I am the chairman and president of the Americas Community Center. It's like a chamber of commerce. It's an organization that was founded 21 years ago in the state of Florida and the South Florida, especially in Broward County, that will help business people and all new people coming to the state of Florida to develop themselves and to learn the system and also assist them in that business development. We have helped over 500 companies in South Florida. There's a record on that in the Sun Sentinel about that. I'm here because I know you have a process, and every process takes what the process takes. And I know that I was also in a zoning and planning board in my city, and we made some decisions, but definitely the buck stops here, and that's why I decided to come here today. I have met 2 of the partners of the developers on this project. I just want to talk to you about the individuals in that project. The people that are trustworthy, people that have kept their word in every process we've been with them. Second, I'm not here as a consultant, as an attorney. I'm just as a nonprofit organization that I am a volunteer, and I'm here to give you a testimony of integrity, and those are the best partners you want for your city. There's no question you need to look at who are you partnering up and who's going to be the developers in your city to be able to move forward. What I could tell you, and you can look at my name, Fabio Andrade, Weston, and it's nothing I'm saying here is a lie because I'm also Australian, but it's individuals that have kept their words, and I have met them 20 years ago when they came to South Florida to start the business. Integrity, honesty, community people, because every time I call them for my nonprofit to help out, to help children in Immokalee, they're always there. So that's what my testimony is all about. I am a non-for-profit organization, 501c3 in the city of Weston. We have done seminars here. And I reached out to some of our associates and I asked them about this project. Everybody thought it was a great development, which is thus the testimonies before me that were positive. I totally agree with that. I thank you for your time. I hope you support this project because I don't know if you're very aware, the state of Florida, we're getting 1,000 people per day coming to the state of Florida. And your question is what of those 1,000 people you'll be getting and what kind of development you want and what kind of partners to help you in that development for your city to grow. And that is key. That is statistics given to all of us by the state, by the governor's office on a monthly basis. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Next speaker. Just name and address and indicate if you've been sworn.
Dennis Stewart, 2124 Southeast 7th Street, and I have been sworn. I'm coming here in favor of the project, and I would like to applaud you for considering the economic impact of this project. This small piece of property may be the most important piece of property to come in front of this board in the last 3 or 4 years when you consider the size of the property and the economic impact that it will have, both for the residents, for the contractors that are going to do work on the property, and for the $50 million in tax base that you brought, that it will bring to the city in the future. There was a talk before about immigration issues that we have in this country. This developer is going to find 28 potential immigrants to come to our city, plunk down a couple $1 million and spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars every single year. That's a great immigration problem to have. And I thank you very much for your support.
Thank you. Next speaker. Just name and address and indicate if you've been sworn, please.
Good evening. Jim Jankowski, 2025 Northwest 15th Avenue. And yes, I was sworn in. I remembered that. I am here with your local workforce. I am a local contractor of a good-sized company. And I have not personally, except met one of the owners tonight. My staff went to the meetings. One of the gentlemen were asking me why were they having meetings before the job is even done. One, they didn't want to cut any corners. Number two, they want to support the local workforce. It was stated where one of my employees went there and said, we want to focus on local companies. I'm a local company. They want to work with us. We have not been bribed. We have not been pushed anything forward like I've heard this. Some of these people making accusations. None of this has happened. This is just people not getting their way, pounding their feet. But I'm just here as the local workforce and to say they're fully in support of working with all the local companies. Appreciate everybody's time. Have a good night.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Jan Park, 3400 Dover Road in Hillsborough Shores, and I've been sworn in, and I've lived there 45 years, and I've watched the city of Pompano grow so slowly, I can't believe it. I am ecstatic about it. I was at the last meeting, and I want all of you commissioners, I emailed all of you, I'm being accused of accusing Janine here of her falsehoods. I was under the impression and given by a real good source that the 2 reams of papers that she handed the clerk were blank. There were only 5 signatures on the front page. So I'm here to say, don't be deceived by the public and the naysayers that are still boo-hooing all our progress in the city. Be aware of what's out there. And that's all I have to say to you. I'm ecstatic about the project. I hope you all continue to vote yes. And I hope, Mrs. Perkins, that you will change your vote and not be swayed by the falsehoods of what's out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please, ladies and gentlemen, please, be respectful of all speakers. I ask you to please. Okay, quiet so we can hear folks. Thank you, sir. Name, address, and indicate if you've been sworn.
I got to switch everything up now.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
I had to switch everything now. Skaversky, 1630 Southwest 5th Avenue, Pompano Beach. Swaying stuff, huh?
And have you been sworn, sir?
Yes, I've been sworn. Now, you're all sworn, right? Since Jan just left, let me ask a question then. Beverly's obviously needs to be swayed. I don't know why they're not over here, Keith and Associates and the lawyers, so I guess I'll just talk to the wall or something. But since she brought that up, full disclosure, who up here has received campaign money from the developers or Keith and Associates? Full disclosure, who's the followers?
Sir, that's not germane.
It's not germane?
Go ahead.
It sure as heck is.
It's public record in campaign report.
They don't know where to find it. And the non-follower is none other than Perkins.
Okay.
She is the only one who has not received any money from any of them. None of them. Not one of them.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask you again to please be silent during the proceedings until you're at the podium. Thank you.
And Keith and Associates. How many have you received money from Keith and Associates? All of you, except for one person, Beverly Perkins.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Skaversky.
Well, I'm just following Jan because Beverly is, obviously not that great. Obviously, she's not a follower. She's a leader. My other question.
Thank you, sir. I'll appreciate it if you'll please be quiet during the proceedings. Thank you.
Let me ask another question. Andrea, this is your district. Do you have anything in the future to deal with this project whatsoever? Any friends, anybody, any realtors that you feel or will be profiting off of this project?
Mr. Skaversky, this is an opportunity for you.
This is an opportunity where you tell the truth. We're under oath.
This is an opportunity for you to give testimony, sir.
Okay, but do you? Does anybody in this room, are they getting a property off this building? Are they buying a property from this building? Nobody's answering these questions because we'll have to find that out in the future because that's already happened here in the city. With certain things that have been passed, all of a sudden you see one of the first buyers is you know who, somebody from the CRA. They don't know that. This is, for a lot of them, this is their first or second meeting. But anyway, these condos, I think, are going to be over $1 million plus. There's not one comp in the area that will support this. So the first buyer is not even going to be your first comp. You're going to need buyers 2 and 3 to make a comp. So I don't know who came up. Nothing fits in the area. And I'm sure there's a few people here that will also agree with that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Beverly.
Next speaker. Just name, address, and indicate if you've been sworn, please.
My name's Doug Borden, and I live at 525 North Ocean Boulevard, Pompano Beach, apartment number 1722, about 10 blocks away from this proposed development. And I just happen to notice that we've seen a few people. I'm sorry?
Have you been sworn?
Yes, I've been sworn in.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
And I just noticed that we've seen quite a few people that are speaking and giving testimony that don't even live in this town. And I've seen people that have potential conflict of interest, like realtors and contractors. And while they're able to voice their opinions, I just hope that this commission will not give them as much weight as people who actually live in the community or close by or don't have a conflict of interest. So in the sports world, when we had people coming in out of town and doing something and giving testimony, if they don't live in the neighborhood, we'd call them ringers. First of all, I'd like to address Ms. McGee in regards to my statements at last week's meeting when I stated that the rezoning is going to set a precedent. You later in the meeting conferred with the town attorney about the legality of setting a precedent as it pertains to legal zoning standards. And I understand the legal terms of setting a precedent, and all projects have to stand on their own. So we're on the same page with that. But I want you to know is that I was not speaking entirely in legal terms. What I was saying to you is this. Once you start doing an end run around the typical way that we get things approved around here, i.e. a zoning board, that you're sending a signal to other developers that Pompano Beach is open for business. In essence, you're saying to developers that you have your ways to get things done around here, even if you have to disadvantage your own constituents. And Andrea, I voted for you. Andrea, at this point, if you were to vote no again, I would know that if you would vote yes for this again, I would know that it's a mistake. You know how unpopular this project is, and I urge you to change your vote. Commissioner Moss, last week I found it ironic that at the last meeting you opposed extending the lease for Galuppi's contract for just another 5 years. For fear of not knowing if a proven good partner with the city will continue being that good partner. Do you remember that? You oppose that?
Go ahead.
It was just an additional 5, not to get off track here, that was just an additional 5 years. But you have no problem with saddling our neighborhood with a totally unproven developer that will erect a structure that is really unpopular and that is so out of character with the neighborhood that we're going to have to live with that forever, let alone a little 5 years. So I think your priorities are skewed there. And I also urge you to vote no for this and change your vote. Please do that, Commissioner Moss. Commissioner Eaton, in December 2017, when you were on the zoning board, you did the right thing. You logically voted this project down for all the right reasons, right? Did you vote that down originally?
Go ahead, sir. Continue your testimony.
Now you're a commissioner. Now that it's after your election as well, you're voting yes for this for all the wrong reasons. So I ask you to vote no on this too. Finally, I would like to say that another round of yes votes for this project under the guise of a planned development infill is reprehensible. To go around the people of this community in such a manner is a disgrace. And anyone who approves such an end run around our existing zoning procedures and the people of this town ought to be ashamed of themselves. Thank you for letting me have some input.
Thank you. Next speaker. Please, ladies and gentlemen, if I could ask you, I understand people have a lot to say, but stay focused on the project. Give input on the project. That'd be great. Thank you. Go ahead. Just name, address, and indicate if you've been sworn, please.
Rose, Rose Puerto. I have been sworn. Address is, what's our address? 525 North Ocean Boulevard, Pompano Beach, Florida.
Very good. Thank you.
And this is an application for rezoning. In December of 2017, the zoning board denied the request to rezone the property in question to planned development infill, specifically on the basis that the zoning application, number one, was not consistent with future land use goals, objectives, and policies, and number two, it did not meet the general purposes of a PDI district as outlined in the policies established in the zoning code and the Pompano Beach Comprehensive Plan. The property owner made a persuasive case for his application and for the benefits to the project, but many members of the public who live in the area and that purchased their homes with the understanding of the existing zoning districts spoke out against rezoning to a PDI district. They based their arguments on the fact that the application did not meet the important criteria that the project, quote, must be compatible with both surrounding existing development and available infrastructure. Public comments at the last commissioners' meeting were very similar to those that were made at the zoning board meeting in 2017, at which this rezoning was denied. Although the height of the buildings were reduced, they are still well over 105 feet allowable on an RM 45 district, which is what the town's comprehensive plan considered a maximum height for this location, given the neighborhood, the land use goals, and the master plan for the city. The public commentary didn't focus solely on the height of the project, but also importantly on the fact that despite being beautifully designed, the buildings were simply not consistent with the surrounding area, and that this change in rezoning will actually be detrimental to the direct neighbors. Given that change is inevitable, you all have the responsibility and a fiduciary duty to proceed with caution as respects zoning deviations and to preserve what makes our city unique and an exceptional place to live. It's easy to create change or a new vision by simply approving buildings that look pretty and that promise ratables. But if they deviate from the existing zoning, very specific criteria must be satisfied, and careful consideration must be given to the impact that it will have. The community, may I finish?
Yes, please finish.
The community has been vocal that we do not see how this application merits approval for rezoning. We all want prosperity for our city and smart development and growth. There is not one single right way to do this. But once these buildings are erected and a precedent is set, there will be more and there will be no turning back. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker. Just your name, address, and indicate if you've been sworn, please.
Melissa Stewart, 2124 Southeast 7th Street, Pompano, and I have been sworn.
Very good.
So as probably the youngest person here in the future of Pompano and a future homeowner in Pompano, I'm a strong proponent of this development simply because of the economic impact that it'll have on each and every resident in Pompano. This is very forward-looking, this development, so I'm worried that something of this not passing might disencourage development along A1A in Pompano, which is not what the future of Pompano wants. And I'm worried that if this doesn't pass, it's just going to overall disencourage the economic development that Pompano wants to generate and that the future of Pompano wants to see. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Next speaker. Just name, address, and indicate if you've been sworn, sir.
Good evening. My name's Robert Groom. I live at 1630 North Ocean Boulevard, Tiffany Gardens West. Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor.
Have you been sworn, sir?
Yes, I've been sworn.
Very good. Thank you.
Commissioners, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I spoke 2 weeks ago to this issue, and I urged everyone here to vote for this project. What I'd like to say is where I live, if anybody's going to be affected by the view of these towers, it's going to be myself and the people that live in my stack. I will look directly at it all day long. Every time I come down to Florida, I live in Canada, I come down as a snowbird, I will look at that project. I don't want to look at a square box. I don't want to look at everything that I'm looking at now, which are square boxes. If people can't see the vision that Pompano is going, then I don't know how much more these developers can do. They've done a beautiful job. It's a superb piece of architecture, and all it's going to do is enhance your area. I urge you to vote for this. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker. Just please give your name, address, and indicate if you've been sworn.
My name is Amanda Sierra, and I live at 3801 Crystal Lake Drive. I live and work in this area, and I think that the communities are...
You've been sworn?
Yes.
You have been? Great. Thank you.
Yes. The communities are made to grow. I don't think community stay still, static for so many years. This project is going to bring us improvement in the area, increase jobs and opportunities. It's going to increase the parking and investments in the area, more places to go and enjoy for you, all of you, diversity. We're going to have an increase of value of our properties, and of course, it's going to make more income to the city.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Ma'am, pardon me. Thank you. I apologize. Just name, address, and indicate if you've been sworn, please, sir. Thank you.
Henry Lesbert, 101 Bryony Avenue, Pompano Beach. I have been sworn.
Very good. Thank you.
I think one of the more important things here is what the gentleman, a couple of speakers back, said, and that's that tacitly, Pompano Beach in the last probably 8 or 9 years has become open for business for any contractor that wants to come in, put down a set of plans that conforms to specifications, knowing that he will get a variance in the near future. This has happened over and over again, especially on A1A. It's unbelievable. 1,200 units here, 1,200 units there, 30-story buildings where there should only be 20. Pompano was originally scheduled for only 10 stories, and the last were the Twin Towers on Pompano Beach on Briney Avenue. WCI building went up, and they kept building and building and building and said, oops, sorry, we made a mistake, and they granted them the variance. It's been known that contractors come in saying that I want to build at 10 stories, and then all of a sudden they come back and say, gee, we need really more rooms. And you say, well, you're zoned for 10. Well, we'll build right up to the sidewalk if you don't let us. That's why we'll get some more rooms in. So you got to let us go higher. Everybody's getting variances for their contracts. And the only people you can look forward to are the people of your stature within the city, the commissioners, our representatives in our area, and the city officers. Granted, Pompano has become one of the most populous cities to move to in the United States, number 4. But you're going to kill it with A1A. All right, getting around A1A now going north has become almost like going to Commercial Avenue, all right, Boulevard. It's almost impossible to navigate. Taking a corner off of Briney, going to Federal, could take you 30 minutes going to church on Saturday afternoon in season. It's almost to the point of being ridiculous. And any building and going 10 stories higher than originally or 100 feet higher than requested is absolutely ridiculous. So I would ask that the commissioners take a look at re-election, which is a big thing for people in public service, and say, who's going to vote for me, all right? Not the 1,400, 1,800 people that come in, all right? Or, the people that are residents here for many, many years. And I live, and my wife and her family built one of the towers, not built, but when they bought when it was being built 40 years ago. And we continue to live here, love it, but traffic is unbelievable. So I just ask you to change your vote if you voted for it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker. Please come forward. Just your name, address, and indicate if you've been sworn, please.
Yes, I have. Fred Palladino, 1610 North Ocean Boulevard, Tiffany Gardens. I'm very concerned because I've been told that we're going to be having shadows on our pool for 2 to 4 hours per day during peak hours, and I don't want that. And the congestion on 16th Street is going to be unbearable. It's going to be built on a postage stamp piece of land, and I just can't see it. I think the project should be scaled down. It's a nice-looking project, but I feel like it should be scaled down. And another thing is the infrastructure on A1A. How's it going to handle all these high-rises that are going up? Your sewer, water, drain lines? I don't know how your infrastructure is going to handle it. I mean, I was in that business, and I know. I'm from Boston, and I've seen what happens when you put up too many high-rises. Infrastructure can't handle it. So I'm just asking, please vote no on this. Change your mind, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker. Just your name, address, and indicate if you've been sworn, please.
My name is Nora Correa. I live in 1391 North Course Drive, Pompano Beach. I have been living here for many years. I have, sir.
Very good. Thank you.
I'm here to support this project. I think it is a great project for the future of our city, and not only for the kind of building they are going to build, but for the care of the environment that they are going to have. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker. Just name and address and indicate if you've been sworn, please.
I have not been sworn in.
You have not.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the evidence you're going to give is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
So help me God, I do.
I do.
Very good.
Thank
Name and address.
Your Honor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, Janine Lesbert, 101 Briny Avenue, Pompano Beach Club, North Tower. And I understand, Commissioner, you're moving into the South Tower, so I guess we'll be neighbors, so hello. I'm sitting here tonight, and I really had no intention of speaking. But in listening to everyone talking about economic development, I'd like to bring to your attention Oceanside, across the street from our building, that's been sitting empty, the whole first floor. The one restaurant there, Nick's Restaurant, which has had several problems with the City Health Commission, everything else is empty. And I know several residents that live in that building, and they can't get anybody to go in and rent. And then we go down the street to the new Pompano garage, and the whole first floor of the garage is still empty. And we talk about economic development. We can't fill what we have. I'm waiting to see all the shops and all the business come. Now, I take you to Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock. And Commissioner, you'll find this out. I attend St. Gabriel's Church. I must leave by 3:15 in season, 3:30 now out of season. Because if I take a left and then try to get on A1A, if the bridge is up, I must sit there for 3 to 4 lights before I can take a right turn. In season, the traffic is horrendous. So I ask you, before you approve this project, let's talk about improving A1A, widening the Atlantic Street Bridge. If you want to go down to 14th Street, widen that bridge. Let's get the infrastructure in place before we put any more towers in. It doesn't handle what we have now. And as far as all this economic development, take a look at all those empty stores. I don't see anybody banging the walls down to come in and open up businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please. We were doing so good for a while there. Please, just thank you. Next speaker, just name, address, and indicate if you've been sworn, please.
Natalie Holmes. I have been sworn. Address 3159 North Andrews Avenue. I work in Pompano.
Allison Ketchum, 1790 Powerline Road, Pompano.
And you've been sworn, ma'am?
I've been sworn.
Very good. Okay.
Good afternoon, Commission. Rafael Dradrak, 3225 Northeast 13th Street, Pompano Beach.
And you have been sworn, sir? Okay.
Michael Bill, 1961 Northeast 25th Ave, Pompano Beach. You know, Mayor, yes, I have been sworn.
Very good. Thank you. Right. Just had to get it on the record. Thank you.
You know, Mayor, I heard about it being a dark day in Pompano, but we live in the Sunshine State, and it's never dark. And so we need to speak to the brightness of Pompano and how we continue to move forward. Unfortunately, while the 1% often, or the less than 1%, do not completely represent the city of Pompano, we the people represent the city of Pompano. And it's greater than those that just live on the beach. Now, if you're telling me that only the beach folks can only speak up for what happens on the A1A, then the question becomes, who are you really representing? Yes, you represent everyone, regardless if you have a district. But the reality of it stands still, is that everyone in this great city of Pompano get an opportunity to live and enjoy life right here in the great city. So we have to be true to that. And so we have to realize, we're creating jobs. You know, the developer have had several meetings with local business owners. Several. You know, we hear about, these talks about, we currently own property. Well, the people who's coming going to be owning property. They're going to be taxpayers. They're not renters. Then when you look at, we're really looking at this idea for the greater vision of Pompano and how do we move forward. So I want to encourage you, don't be bullied. Stay true to how you voted. But most importantly, know that you're working for everyone in Pompano. So yes, Ms. Gee, you're working for me as well. And you do represent me. Mr. McMahon, you do represent me. And my colleagues who stand behind me. Rhonda, you do represent me. Mayor, you do. Barry, you do. Beverly, you do as well. So here's the truth. Yes, take the consideration, but let's stay true to moving this great city forward, because Pompano is the place we all ought to want to live and be and spend our hard-working money. No longer do I want to go to Boca. No longer do I want to go to Fort Lauderdale to enjoy a good time. I pay my tax dollars here, and I expect to enjoy my life here. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker. Next speaker, just name, address, and indicate if you've been sworn, please.
Yes, Robert Cubis, 3240 Northeast 16th Street, Pompano Beach. I was here last meeting, and I want to go over a couple things. First, that I previously reiterated that I moved to Pompano Beach in this particular area because of the community atmosphere that I found here, okay? Now I've been hearing about this Twin Tower project coming to town, and I got to be very honest with you. If this thing is approved, you will leave me no choice, and I only speak for myself, but you will leave me no choice but to move out of this area. Okay? In addition, I mentioned this earlier at my last meeting, that I come from New Jersey. It's a very small state, but I know a lot of folks up there that talk to me all the time and say, what do you think about where you live down there? Because they all know if you go further south, there's wall-to-wall high-rise condominiums, and they don't like that. They're not coming here for that. So they ask me, and I say, this particular part of Pompano is really, really nice because they keep the community atmosphere, everything. It's that kind of a community. So I think you're going to probably have other folks that, like myself, that are going to be in communication with people like that, and they're going to say, listen, you know, we're not going to move down there if it's going to turn into like a mini Miami, if you will. As I also mentioned at the last meeting that a half acre, this is a half, you know, I got to get my arms around this. This thing is a half acre, and they want to build two 200-foot story buildings. Now, I don't know about you, but I just can't get my arms around that because, as I said, New Jersey's a very small state, but in a half acre, we build single-family homes. Now, I'm not saying that you should do that in Florida, but I'm just trying to give you some sort of an analogy here, okay? Finally, I heard two of my neighbors, excuse me, two of my neighbors last meeting, Jerry and Ramona Myrick, they live across the street. And I invite you, I think you live in the area, Andrea, I invite you folks to put yourself in their position. They live in an antique, a historic home. They've lived there for decades. This is their home. It's right across the street from these twin, where they're going to go up. And they literally will not get sunlight when these things are completed. So I invite you to put yourself in their shoes and think if you lived across the street from this, would you still be voting the way you voted last time? That said, I thank you very much, and I really appreciate it if you reconsider your vote and vote no. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please come forward. Just give your name, address, and indicate if you've been sworn, please.
Barbara Beatonell, 1609 North Riverside Drive, and I have been sworn.
Very good. Thank you.
You're welcome. You know, what this really boils down to is simple. It's a small little half-acre lot you're going to build the Taj Mahal on. There's thousands of them in the city, tens of thousands. I can call my next-door neighbor and say, hey, how about we both sell our place for millions to a developer? We can take all our money, go to Lauderdale by the Sea and be millionaires and have a beautiful home, because we can't have that here anymore. It's going to be the Gulf Ocean. You might as well buy by the Gulf Ocean Mile. It's crazy. And it's about the people. You know, I have a new friend I made, Jeannie, who did everything to help us for this. I mean, years of effortless work. Petitions, calling people, signs, put her whole heart in it. And, you know, when I went to her condo, It occurred to me, she lived in the northeast building. That building is she's never even gonna see it. But that's not why she's doing all this. She's doing this because it's the people of Pompano want this. And I think you should back the people of Pompano, because you know what? When you guys need us, we help you. When you need to get elected, we help you. When you have the bonds, we help you. And we need you to help us here, because we don't want to live in the Galt. We didn't buy a condo in the Galt, and that's not where we want to live. So if you can put the Taj Mahal on a half acre, they'll be everywhere. You can't stop it. The city's going to be nothing like it is. This is monumental. It's just going to make all the difference in the world. So I hope you vote no. And thanks for listening.
Thank you. Next speaker. Please just give your name, address, and indicate if you've been sworn.
Beatrice Londono, and I have been sworn in. I was here last 2 weeks ago, and I just said something. I live in Palmyra. I'm a West Side Pompano Beach neighbor. My life is, I'm retired, and my life is the sun, the sea, the pool, and outdoors activities. I love Pompano. I have been here for more than 20 years. I think that the work that this mayor and the commissioners have done with the city the last years has been great. If you get to look around, you see that the city has developed, the support they give to the artists. Many things have been great. The support to the artist is something that leaves you astonished. What you did with the cases, the electric cases that were copied by the other communities, by the other cities, was great. You are a commission and a city council and a mayor that are interested in the artists, the art. I see this project not as something that is ruining the beach or affecting some neighbors, because it's affecting some neighbors, as they say. But I see it as a place, an art. They are calling the Twin Towers. I remember Chicago. The Twin Towers are going to make a name of this city. So I encourage you to continue with the vote that you gave last meeting. Okay?
Thank you. Next. Thank you, Mr. Skaversky. Can you please sit down and then... Thank you. Next speaker, just name, address, and indicate if you've been sworn, please.
Vincente Thrower, 1890 Northwest 6th Avenue, and yes, Mayor, I have been sworn.
Thank you.
Mayor, my mind, I wasn't going to say something about this, Mayor, but then when I hear people say certain things, it started to get to me. Imagine if the Northwest area, back in the days when my grandparents and my grandparents' parents had moved here, and they were farmers before many of you even came here, decided that we didn't want those buildings that you're living in right now on our beach. That beach belonged to the Northwest before it belonged to any of you all. And tonight, what I hear you talking about, and then hear some people talk about our vendors and then accuse our mayor and commissioner of being on the take. Where are you people when our schools and our kids need help to go back to school? You're living in your towers and you're staying there, but you got the nerve to accuse our mayor and commission of doing something unethical, but I guarantee you won't pick up the phone, either bring any money to none of the schools in this whole area. And to our board member, Dr. Parks, I love you to death. But let's not get it twisted, Dr. Parks. You had to ask some of these same, I almost want to say jackasses, for help to help support your school. So today, to accuse our mayor and commissioner of any unethical behavior, you out of line. Because when it's time for our kids to need help, It's the Keith and Associates that step up. Not none of you. No, no, I know who do it. Come November and December, when it's time to feed our families, where are you? You enjoying your lifestyle in the Caribbean somewhere? Oh, yeah, I just said it. I'm going to stand by it.
Ladies and gentlemen, please.
Mayor and Commission, this is Pompano Beach, where people have been here since 1920 and 1919. Before these visitors came here and took our beach, and now they say they don't want nobody. And I'm assuming when you say you don't want to see nothing over there, you're also talking about us.
Mr. Thrower.
Mayor, I'm getting tired of it, Mayor. You entertained it all night long with these people. They accuse you all of unethical behavior, and now it's time to correct the record. This body has a job to do. The beach belongs to all of us and not just a few. At the end of the day, there ain't nothing they can do besides come up here and spout negativity. Put in your story and keep it moving. We have plenty of things in the Northwest that we didn't want to see happen, but at the end of the day, when we see the bigger picture, it was necessary. Mayor, it was necessary to move the Northwest forward. And tonight, this is a great project, and the beach doesn't just belong to a handful of people. When they bought their property, they knew at some point that something was going to be built across the street.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, please, can I have silence out there? Respect the person who is speaking.
Man, they took my last couple of seconds. Point being, Mayor, for the record, you are Mayor. I'm going to be blunt about this next statement. There ain't nothing they can do to touch you, to be pressing you to talk about what you should and should not be doing. I don't like those comments. Those comments are wrong. Our mayor and commissioner are now on the take, and I think you all are very disrespectful. Commissioner McGee, you do what you need to do to move this city forward. Because at the end of the day, people, Mayor, let me just ask you through the city attorney, what is the ramification when somebody lies under oath? No, time is not up, and you better recognize I'm a brother. I don't play with you.
Mr. Thrower,
Mayor, what happens, what's the ramification when somebody perjure themselves under oath here?
Mr. Thrower,
I'm asking you, Mayor.
That's not a question for our city attorney to answer. You're here to give testimony.
I'm giving a testimony. I'm asking you what happens under oath when you perjure yourself under oath, Mayor?
That's up to the state attorney's office.
Oh, that's up to the state attorney's office. So if a person perjure themselves under oath, that's up to the state attorney's office?
That's who would prosecute it, yes, sir.
So that's something that we as a citizen can file and say that somebody perjured themselves under oath?
I can only assume that.
I support this project, and I would be talking to the state attorney.
Thank you. Next speaker. Just your name, address, and indicate if you've been sworn, please. If you can pull that mic down. Thank you.
My name is Jerry Myrick, Myrick. And to the last speaker, how long have you been here?
Sir.
I've been here 65 years in Pompano. And I've been sworn in and sworn at a lot.
Okay.
I can tell you that over my life.
Very good, sir.
Good evening, Mayor Hardin and Commissioner Perkins. Hello, everybody. Glad you had me back again. I don't think the microphones were working too good last time, July the 9th, because it seemed like no one was heard that was against the zoning of 1508 at all. Nobody was heard. One commissioner told me that he'd already made up his mind before he came to the meeting and winked at me. Another commissioner told my wife, I quote, got to get my quote. When she's speaking to my wife, when you decide to sell your house, I could have it moved and developed. Hers will be in line. End of quote. These are foreign developers. Give them an inch and they'll take a mile. Vote no for rezoning of 1508. 1,400 signatures, got to mean something somewhere. 4-1 vote on the last meeting, got to mean something somewhere. These are low rent, backdoor developers. They have used every trick in the book to ruin a neighborhood and a public park and a public beach. They will intimidate the local residents and run them off when they build this monster. When the redo of the public park will be extended, an extension of the condos, they will claim the beach by intimidating anyone that goes to the beach. Anyone. I thank you very much. I think something should be done. And whoever voted no last time, I would really appreciate it, because this is a shame on old Pompano Beach. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please come forward. Just your name, address, and indicate if you've been sworn, please.
I have been sworn. My name is Sharon Patchnick. I live on Northeast 14th Street Causeway. This is the third city council meeting that I've attended that some really nasty things have been said by the second to the last speaker, directed at many of the other people here. Now, I understand it is your position, Mayor Hardin, to tell people to respect the person who is speaking. What I would like to know is, are there any kind of conditions or standards for the person speaking who continually puts down and makes innuendos and makes generalizations and judges people that he does not know and places us all in a category like we're all together? Because it gets a little difficult to sit through that kind of thing, especially when he goes long past his time and all he's doing is being repetitive and insulting a number of the people in the room. Are there any standards?
Honestly, very few, ma'am. That's freedom of speech. But everyone has a right to come forward, and I've been very liberal with the time tonight on all sides.
I understand that, but I think most people were not up here ranting and raving and insulting everyone in the room, or a good number of the people. I was just curious about that. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Next speaker. Good evening. Just please give your name, your address, and indicate if you've been sworn.
Sure. Kay Johnson, 213 Southeast 23rd Avenue, Pompano Beach, Florida. I have been sworn in.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I see Mr. Moss is leaving. Okay. We had a little confrontation last time. So, one of the things I want to say to you, and you know this, your reputation is the only thing you all have. And if your reputation is tainted by the decisions you make, it's going to follow you. So your decisions that you make on this commission as the CRA board, you need to listen to your constituents. There was a bunch of high-powered guys here tonight, very well orchestrated, about the Twin Towers. The Twin Towers is a beautiful concept, but it belongs on South Beach. It's too big for the small plot that it's on. You need to listen to the people that live in the area, not to the people that come and placate you to get them to vote their way. Zoning has denied this. Why are you aren't educated in zoning, but the zoning board is. Why do you think they denied this project? It doesn't fit that plot. It's a beautiful building, but it's too big. And so I think you should defer to the experts and not always, you're constantly, everything you vote on, you go through all the motions, you listen to the public, then you turn around, you say, any discussion? No discussion, let's vote. We all vote in favor. So everybody has a preformed or somebody backroom decisions have been made, but people are watching. People are listening. They're not happy with a lot of the decisions that you folks are making. So come in March, come in November, I think that you should be very much concerned about your reputation, and you should try to be above reproach when you make these decisions. You should make them on educated decision from the heart, not from some backroom deal. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker. Please give your name, address, and indicate if you've been sworn.
Thank you. Tom Twilliger, 3160 Northwest 1st Avenue, Pompano Beach, and I have been sworn. I would like to remind one of our commissioners about their public post on a different piece of property. It is something all the commissioners should consider. Their statement was, and I quote, "Once property rights are granted, they can't be taken away. A bedrock of our Constitution going back to the Magna Carta. Every man's home is his castle, with the same rights as the king's, back in the year 1215 in England," unquote. The existing property owners surrounding the property that you are asking to rezone purchased property with rights. Rights to live in a community of like structures. Rights to sunlight. Rights to view. Rights that their property values will not fall and they will not lose money or property values because some neighbor wants to change the zoning rules so they can make more money on their property at the expense of others. Our home rule form of government was not established to redistribute wealth, which is what will happen if the zoning change is allowed. Ocean Park land developers will gain in land value, while the neighbors will lose in land value. This is redistribution of wealth. The rich land developers get richer, the local homeowners get less. Protect the castles of the tax-paying local citizens. Their property rights are, and again I quote, "the bedrock of our Constitution." This zoning change is not compatible with the neighborhood. It is not equitable, and it is just plain wrong. Please vote no.
Thank you. Next speaker. Good evening. Just name, address, and indicate if you've been sworn, please.
Good evening, everyone. Yes, I've been sworn. Charmaine Johnston, 1509 North Ocean Boulevard, Pompano Beach.
Thank you.
I'm here tonight. I mean, everyone says that how we're not for development. We never said that. That land was for 105 feet. I live across the street. That's going to swallow me at 205 or 206. Someone said, oh, well, last time we met, 60 feet is nothing. That's a lot. 100 feet, that's a lot. You know, someone said at the other meeting, she said she loved back in the day to go to Hillsborough Club. Hillsborough Club has been developed. They have changed it. They've made it nice. They've kept it all quaint. They didn't go high. They didn't go high in the sky. They didn't build 8 stories. They could have done it because, believe me, they can get rented. They have plenty weddings there. A lot of people get to go and enjoy that club. And I got to enjoy that club. I got to go to that club to many weddings. Nice, beautiful, quaint, kept it nice. Why can't we do the same thing? 105 feet. How much more do they need? They need more. Go to Miami Beach. Listen, there's so many places you can go to. Great building. You did a great job with the architecture. I agree with that. But you can go to Sunnyside. You can go to Miami Beach. You can go down south, further south. Go further north. Palm Beach, they do a lot. They do a lot of high rises. They're known for that. Just don't build it there. It's like saying building a tiny area with the biggest property, highest property. 2 stories, 200 feet. Really? I mean, I just want to ask you to just change your mind. Think again about it. If you live in that neighborhood, you will know the traffic you're going to incur. I can't tell you. I mean, I water my lawn every night now that we've come to this. And I'm thinking, I don't use these words, but I say, where on earth are they going to put this buildings? Because there's no way.
There's no way. Yes, they can compact it in, and they'll have a very few people, 26 people, I think. 26 people will be living there. Okay, great for them. But what about the other people? The people who vote for all of us, vote for all of you, help everyone. What happens to us? We have no say? Maybe we shouldn't vote anymore, because it don't seem to work. You know, really. I mean, I'm not saying, all I'm saying, please, think about it again and stop the madness.
Thank you. Next speaker, please come forward. Just your name, address, and please indicate if you've been sworn.
I haven't been sworn.
Have not?
I have not been sworn. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
I haven't said that in a couple of years. Janet Roy, 3405 Beacon Street, Pompano Beach, Florida. As I was on July 9th, I am against the rezoning. I haven't changed my mind, but I'm hoping maybe one or two of you will. I would like Pompano to move forward. I would like to create jobs for Pompano, well-paying jobs for young and old alike. But this proposal isn't the saving grace. It's a large building on a very small lot. In responding to the P&Z 6-0 denial, the developers tried to stress the compatibility of the building to the nearby buildings. Several commissioners cited this compatibility as one of the main reasons you felt comfortable voting for the rezoning. Let's remember, compatibility is a required component of the PDI. The compatibility is wrong. It is not a compatible building. When an item is coming up before the commission for a hearing, the residents within a 500 feet area, let's call it the impact zone, are sent a notice about the hearing. Included in the notice is a map of the impact zone. Using that map, using the Broward County property appraiser's property search tool, using Google Earth, Zillow, and walking the neighborhood, driving the neighborhood, because I do it many, many times a day because I live 4 blocks north of the lot, I was able to outline the actual buildings and the land use of the impact zone. Here's what you get. There are 26 different developments in the 500 feet radius. 13 of those developments are 1 to 2 story multifamily. 5 are 3 to 10 story multifamily. 1 is 11 or more. That's Tiffany Gardens. There's a 1-2 story commercial development. That's Vizcaya. I'm not sure how that fits in. But there are 7 single family homes. 3 of those single family homes are directly across the street. They are the closest buildings to this property. Let's put that in percentages. So 13, 1 to 10 story, that's 50% of the buildings in the impact zone are 1 to 2 stories. 19% are 3 to 10, 3.8% are 11 or more, and 27% are single family homes. That is not compatible. Commissioner Moss, and many of you have said that you visited the site. Commissioner Moss, you specifically said you remembered 3 large buildings. Those were the Tiffany Gardens. I wonder if you turned around and looked at the 3 single-family homes that were right there. The reason you remember the Tiffany Gardens is because they are the anomaly. They are the outliers. This neighborhood is not built for large, huge buildings like that. And I need to respond to a few of the people who spoke before me. I volunteer. I volunteer at school boards. I donate to local charities. I collect food drives. I live by the beach. I live in a neighborhood that is lucky to have gated beach access. I don't need public beach access. But many of the residents, believe that this building will restrict the public beach access. We're fighting for the beach access for everybody, not for our neighborhood. So again, I ask you to vote against this property. I hope some of you will change your mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker. Just give your name, address, and indicate if you've been sworn, please.
Harold Fielder, 2708 Northeast 12th Street. I have not been sworn.
You have not.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give is the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
I am not in the shadow of the proposed buildings. It's not my neighborhood. I'm in Harbor Village, so I'm across the street and down a couple of blocks. But I noticed that there are three projects that seem to be getting a lot of public input, mostly negative. And I see the same dynamic happening for the Twin Towers as for the proposed 323 apartments that are going to be stuck on a small piece of land on the east side of 14th to 16th Street. I mean, the west side of the same canal. And also taking over the public park that's in District 1 by moving the house there. And it just keeps playing in my head that when you think Pompano Beach, you think a couple of phrases. If you see a blade of grass, quick, stamp on it and put concrete over it. And if you see a tree, and especially if you see more than one tree in any one place, get out your chainsaw and cut it down or dig it up and move it. It's just can't be in Pompano Beach. All three of these things kind of sound that absurd. And we want progress, we want development. We can't have empty spaces on tax-valued land. But I was around here 20 years ago, and we developed the master plan, and we put the zoning in for a purpose, and it was so that the future of Pompano would be developed in a nice way, which what has been happening has been. It's just getting a little overdone now. And it reminds me, in the early 70s, when I first came to Florida and lived in Del Rey, I was right on the Boca line. Couldn't vote there, but all my friends were the movers and shakers that went out and, at risk of offending their neighbors, they got bonds passed. What were they doing? They were young families with young children, and they wanted to spend tax money to get the trees and the grass, which basically made Boca Raton the go-to comparison city of South Florida. Now, I'm not saying that we're just old in Pompano or we don't think about the children, but what is the difference?
Thank you. Next speaker, please come forward. Calling once, okay. Just give your name, address, and indicate if you've been sworn, please.
My name is Ron Nickel. I've been sworn, and my current address is 3222 Marine Drive, 2 blocks north of the site. I used to live on the actual site until the building was torn down, so I have an intimate history. I'm a kite surfer. That's why I live in the neighborhood. Before that, I was a windsurfer, and before that, in the 80s, I even was there as a Hobie Cat, user once in a while. But I consider the park to be my backyard. I know it's not really my backyard. I don't own it, but I just jokingly consider it my backyard. I can't believe that it got this far, that you guys would even consider 25 stories in that neighborhood. It's so wrong. It's horrific to everybody in the neighborhood. I don't know why they're not here. I don't know why the 16th Street kiteboarders aren't here. I guess they feel that there's no point and they're not going to be successful in changing your mind. But yeah, I don't know how it got this far. 25 stories or 205 feet is just out of scale for our neighborhood. And I think with building and the amount of money that they're paying to live there, they're not going to really care if we have access to the park. They're not going to care if we have parking. The one fella from Northwest Pompano, if he thinks he's going to come to the beach and go to 16th Street Park ever again, he's wrong. He's going to have to go down to Atlantic because there's going to be nowhere for him to park. I luckily live in the neighborhood. I can walk. It's not going to affect me unless the new residents somehow take over the park to such a degree that there's no more kiting and sailing or anything on the beach. So it's kind of a tragedy to me, but after doing it for so many decades, I guess I'll move on, go to Boca or something. But, and I do feel bad for the people that live very close and own property because it's going to be quite an eyesore. I mean, that is just way too tall for the neighborhood, and everybody in the neighborhood feels that. all these other subjects that came up tonight about growth. Why can't the builder be happy with 105 stories? It's so crazy to jump to 205. Are they trying to get us to agree to something in between, and they're asking for that crazy height so we compromise, And if you lived in my neighborhood, you wouldn't have voted the way you did, because it's totally wrong, and I hope you change your mind.
Thank you. Next speaker. Please just give your name, address, and indicate if you've been sworn.
Jim Golly, 2650 Southeast 5th Court, and I've been sworn.
Very good, thank you.
I'm just going to be real quick. Some of the people that are forward are kind of acting like, for Pompano growth and jobs for high school graduates and that. And they're acting like the rest of us are against that. We're not. We just feel they should play by the rules and honor the height and consider the people around. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Further input from the public? Please come forward, indicate your name, address, and indicate if you've been sworn, please.
Yes, I have been sworn. Dominic Camposio, 3248 Northeast 16th Street, Pompano Beach. I'm on the, right across the street from this new proposed project. I'm not here to say anything different than everyone else has said tonight. I understand everybody's feelings. My feelings are personal because I live there. I've been here 30 years, along with my great friend and my neighbor. We talk all the time. And, there's good and bad in Pompano. We've seen the growth. We all appreciate the growth. But I have to say that when I sit back here and I look at all of your faces, you, Mayor Hardin, you have reaction. There's something about you that just comes out. Everybody else, it's really difficult to read. And I'm very Italian, so to us things are big or they're really big. But here I just don't see anything going on. And that's probably a good thing because I really don't want to know. But I feel that everything that we've all said and believe in is not going to change. So all I'm going to do is say this and ask. The proposed park, who's going to take care of this park after it's been completed? Is it going to come out of taxpayers' dollars?
Well, it's a public park. Of course it will. It's going to remain a public park, so yes.
So you're going to maintain the park?
Yes.
With whatever they're going to do, you're going to maintain the quality of the park and the beautiful stonework and the artwork and the cafe. You're going to make sure that doesn't go down the tubes and look bad a year down the road when everyone is gone. So that's my biggest concern. And I know I can't change anything. I think that your minds are already made up, as I felt July 9th, and I think everyone else did the same. But, all in all, if they're going to build a project, I just want them to stay within the limits that you all approve. There's no additional variances, that the park is going to be done. That beautiful sidewalk that I saw in the pictures are going to look the way they do look. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker. You have not been sworn in. Very good. Just name and address, but the clerk will swear you in.
Lauren McGee, 560 Southeast 23rd Avenue. Still commissioner's sister. Still a resident of Pompano Beach my entire life.
And the clerk will swear you in.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give is the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you.
I'll keep this very short because I know this is going to be a long docket for everybody. Pompano is one of the most impressive cities, only by land, at the least. We go from the sawgrass to the seagrass, and I think that everyone's opinion matters when it comes to our city. Not just the residents that live close by it, not just the neighbors who's concerned about how their gardens will be affected.
Ladies and gentlemen, please.
The beach and the fact that, as someone who works in commercial development, the fact that the developer has given in on so many different aspects of the development and has changed what to me looked a little bit like a cereal box or an asylum originally, which is a larger building than what is proposed now with a lot less glass, a lot more shade, has changed to better the aesthetic A1A scenic opportunity that I grew up the Hillsborough Club. Okay. What I want to say to the commission and to the city is to think outside of your box and to see what the progress is in the city of Pompano. And to realize that it's not just about your neighborhood, it's about the city in general. And it's about all of us, not just one district, not just one neighborhood, not just one commercially ridden and inactive area. There's virtually no vehicular impact whatsoever. That, to me, there's 28 units, everyone. There's 28 units total.
Please, ladies and gentlemen, let her speak. Thank you.
I believe that what has been proposed, the first plan I did not agree with. I did not even come close to agreeing with. This reduced plan and improved plan, however, I do agree with. And I believe that it is the highest and best use for this site. And I applaud the developers for putting in what they have ebbed and flowed with to meet the demands of the surrounding neighborhood. And that's all.
Thank you. Further input from the public? Please come forward. Ma'am, you've already spoken once, haven't you? Is there anyone else who has not spoken who wishes to speak? Please come forward now. I'm going to ask you to wait, ma'am. I'm going to ask you to wait. Wait for first everyone else. Please speak.
I've been sworn in, Nick Von Staden, 3201 Beacon Street. I've been a resident of Hillsborough Shores over 40 years. Now I'm looking at it as this opening a proverbial can of worms here. With 105 feet would be great, but anything over that, you're opening this commission and this town to numerous lawsuits for being, people want to build over this 105 feet. There's three, right next door, there's three timeshare buildings. They'll go in a second to developers that know they can go higher on the beach now. They'll tear those buildings down in a minute. The Vizcaya across the street was denied at 10 stories a couple years ago. You can't deny them any longer at 10 stories if you allow this to go higher than 105 feet. There's all kinds of postage stamps areas in North Beach along this that's over over a half acre, 0.62, that they can build all these towers on. Now they can make more money than they ever wanted to because you can't deny them now that you've let this thing go above 105 feet. The lawsuits that when you deny them, they'll sue you just like the yardarm in this city. Will be in numerous lawsuits forever over height again. Thank you.
Thank you. Further input from the public. Please come forward.
I may want to wait until Commissioner Eaton comes back. I find it to be a little rude that she would leave during audience comment.
I appreciate it, sir. Name, address, and have you been sworn?
My name is Eric Eisner. I live at 1798 Bay Drive, and I have been sworn in.
Very good.
And I can assure all of you that my opinions are my own. And yes, my wife is a P&Z alternate member, but she is not sitting on the dais tonight, and she has never voted on anything related to this project. A couple quick points. Number one, at 105 feet, if the developer had agreed to that, which is what he bought it at, he could have started creating the jobs in the community 4 years ago. Okay, that's number one. Okay, number two, nobody here from Hillsborough Shores or from the North Beach area is against development. We're against overdevelopment. But most importantly, the reason I'm here tonight is to ask, why are we allowing a developer to circumvent our normal processes that have been established to appropriately analyze a project of this magnitude? The Planning and Zoning Board and city staff exist to make recommendations on projects such as this one. Why are you not listening to the previous recommendation to deny the rezoning, or at least giving them a chance to review this new project? City staff has not performed an adequate review of the project or made a recommendation regarding approval or denial. That is not misinformation. That is fact. The developer said 2 weeks ago, that they would go to Parks and Rec on the 17th to present their proposal for park renovations. Then they canceled their appearance at the last minute so that they can, quote, get the rezoning done before Parks and Rec considers it. The fate of North Ocean Park and 1508 North Ocean Boulevard must be considered together. As Mayor Hardin said 2 weeks ago, quote, "This piece of property backs up to a park, and I do not believe it is compatible with that park." All you have to do is look at the pictures that the developers have submitted and read the first page of the developer's agreement to see that their plan is to make the park an extension of their property. They're essentially spending $300,000 to double the size of their lot. 2 weeks ago, there was much discussion about precedent. Allowing a developer to essentially buy a city park for $300,000 would be a precedent that I would hope none of you would endorse. I'm simply here tonight to ask why. Why are you not requiring further analysis by city staff? Why is Parks and Rec and the community not being given a chance to evaluate at least the feasibility of the developer's agreement before it is voted on by you? Why are you allowing this vote to be shrouded in an air of impropriety when you simply have to require the developer to do things the right way to eliminate that cloud? Table the vote. Let the developer make the decision to resubmit this to planning and zoning where it belongs and have it properly vetted. Require the developer to hold community outreach and present their proposal for North Ocean Park to the Parks and Rec Board before you approve the developer's agreement later tonight. If you do that and the rezoning still gets approved despite the objection of the majority of the citizens most affected by this decision in the adjacent neighborhood, then so be it. But please, do it the right way. And finally, I would like to invite the developers, Tomas Sinistera and Carlos up here, they're standing in the back, to explain what Mr. Escobar, who spoke earlier, meant when he shook Tomas's hand as he walked out the door and said to Tomas that he spent 2 hours here and Tomas will pay for that.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please. Please, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. And further input from the public. Just name and address and indicate if you've been sworn, sir.
Good evening, Brian Mead, 3403 Dover Road. I have been sworn in, and I oppose the rezoning tonight.
Thank you, sir.
Commissioner McGee, I spoke to you the day after the last hearing and shared with you my disappointment regarding your vote. You said to me that you thought it was a close vote as to who supported and who opposed. I went back and viewed the entire first hearing on tape, wrote down the names, addresses of each speaker and their position. 42 people spoke, 12 for, 29 against, 1 with no definitive position. Commissioner Eaton, in a February 2004 Sun Sentinel article during your District 1 campaign, you said, quote, "When you recognize the codes are not written to protect the rights of adjacent property owners, it is an inequity." Tonight, Commissioner, you have the opportunity to correct this proposed inequity. Commissioner Perkins, you stated that you have an ear for listening to the people, that you took note and numbered them and how many were for and against, that the majority of those speaking are saying no. Thank you, Commissioner Perkins, for listening to the people. Mayor Hardin.
Ladies and gentlemen, please.
Mayor Hardin, you also stated as your rationale that the big problem is compatibility. It backs up to a park. It's not compatible with the surrounding area. Mr. Mayor, I want to thank you for your reasoning and for following the language written within the PDI. In the PDI language of the code, under purpose, it clearly states that the development must be compatible with existing surrounding development. This is the sole reason that this project should not be approved tonight. The applicant's counsel addressed this factual statement during the rebuttal at the first reading. She said, this language is not in the criteria, but under the purpose. This is a ludicrous argument, as everyone knows that the criteria is a sublet section to the purpose as written in the code. By approving this, you will be denying the spirit, the intent, and the actual language that exists in the PDI. We hope that all of you will respect the voice of the people and the language as written in the PDI code. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker, please come forward. No one else wishes to speak on this matter? It's with, ma'am, I'm going to ask you not, you've already had an opportunity. All right, last call for public input. Public input is now closed. Before the commission deliberates, would the applicant like to make any further statements?
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. I appreciate the opportunity for rebuttal. I will try my best to be brief and not address every comment made, so I won't try. I will say that I don't envy you tonight. I know that the task before you is very difficult. We recognize and we appreciate you taking the time to consider the testimony presented tonight, the testimony presented at first reading. I want to just say a few things again. 28 units goes to the site plan. A lot of the comments we heard tonight go to the site plan. The application before you tonight, as you know, is a rezoning application. The rezoning application has to be based, the decision you make about the rezoning application has to be based on competent, substantial evidence. One of the speakers who spoke tonight said that. The speaker said 4 people with expertise have spoken. And the person that spoke said, you need to listen to everyone else. And although I respect others' opinions, the law requires that you listen to expert testimony. You have in your backup tonight and your backup from 2 weeks ago, the expert testimony in written form. You heard staff's response. Those are the experts that you hired. Your planning staff, those are the experts that you hired to review the application. The law says that's what you have to make a decision on. And I know it's not easy because you have people who may want you to vote with your heart. But you have to do what's best for the overall city. With regard to just a few of the things said with regard to the site plan, again, I know this is not a site plan issue, but I just want to correct a few things. There was a shadow study referenced. The shadow study is something that's presented as a part of the site plan. Again, as I said last time, if we get through this rezoning application on second reading, we will present all of that information as required by the city's code at the appropriate time. If the site plan is not approved, then the site plan doesn't get approved based on the site plan's merits, not on the rezoning application. With regard to, I'm not going to belabor the point about the petition that was presented or the number of signatures on that petition. However, it is a public record. You should have it as a part of your backup for this particular item because it was presented as a part of this item. The information we have is that it was 5 signatures and over 200 blank pages. So just as you consider the statements made tonight, the truth of the statements made tonight, please consider, again, we have presented you with expert testimony. That's what you're required to make your decision on, the competent and substantial evidence presented. And also, lastly, keep in mind that at the Planning and Zoning Board, there were 3 items that the staff, 3 reasons why the staff recommended.
One moment, please. Ladies and gentlemen, please be quiet. Thank you. Go ahead and continue, ma'am.
3 reasons the staff stated with regard to incompatibility of the prior project, and that was that there was no interaction with the beach or the park. Again, you have a copy of a proposed site plan, and it shows an interaction with the park. In addition, we voluntarily agreed to enter into a developer's agreement with regard to those proposed improvements, which speaks to a minimum amount of money spent at the parks. Secondly, there was a concern about the commercial element. We were proposing kiosks at the Planning and Zoning Board meeting. You now know, again, based on the site plan that's in your backup, that we are proposing an actual commercial use, which is expanded. And lastly, the height, and we have decreased the height of the proposed project. Again, we're here with our team. We're happy to answer any questions that you might have. We thank you again for your time, and we know that this is a difficult decision, but we'd ask that you vote in favor of our rezoning application because we have met the standard. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you. No, okay. Now it is time for commission deliberation. I've got a question of, I guess, staff probably. There's been a lot of question about the Planning and Zoning Board, about how this went before the Planning and Zoning Board the first time and was rejected unanimously, and then it's changed and it hasn't gone back. Is there? Can somebody please turn that noise off? Thank you. What triggers, so there is no requirement that this project go back to the Planning and Zoning Board. Is that, so no matter what was presented, it doesn't have to go back, or is there some triggering mechanism that forces a project to go back to the Planning and Zoning Board?
Thank you. and a project does have to go back if it is a change that is an increase. In this case, it was, as we stated, unanimously recommended and unanimously denied for recommendation. They're a recommending body only, and because the applicant came back and decided to make a reduction, the application goes directly to commission.
Gotcha. So if there's a reduction, there's no requirement.
Right.
If they didn't do anything, then it's just a denial. And if they tried to increase anything, then they'd have to go back to P&Z.
Correct. And in this case, they came back and reduced the height and reduced the number of units.
Gotcha. And increased the commercial, which was one of the comments from the P&Z board.
And that was actually one of the staff's comments because that was against the intent of the PDI district.
Gotcha. Okay. Yes. And I'd just like to also just check. Okay. That the applicant was talking about competent substantial evidence. Of course, we have to base our decision on competent substantial evidence. But if that's all you base a decision on, then we wouldn't be necessary up here. We also have to look at things like compatibility, and that's much more of a subjective decision, isn't it?
The code, how it's written, we look at staff's obligation is to look at the criteria. And in the code, the criteria asks us to review the neighboring land use and zoning categories for zoning. And under those categories, the property is compatible and consistent. The property to the north has an unlimited height per the code requirements. As it was stated previously, there might be other provisions within the PDI district, but our obligation, part of this application, is to look at the criteria.
So staff's obligation is to look at the criteria. What is the commission? I mean, the commission, we look at
You're
things.
Reviewing the entire package.
The entire package. So you've checked all the boxes and all that kind of stuff, but there's actually additional stuff that we look at, and otherwise we wouldn't be necessary, correct?
The commission has the ability to review on the merits of the application.
Very good, very good. Okay, let's open it up. Commission discussion. Who wants to be? Commissioner Eaton?
Thank you. Just
Go ahead.
A question of staff. First, just a clarification. Planning and Zoning Board. I mean, if let's see. I think, as I recall, we have 2 builders. One is retired, general contractors. We have we used to have a doctor. We have a former government, career government personnel who's worked for various government agencies over the years. And I don't think that we have a single architect actually on the Planning and Zoning Boards. Can you?
I couldn't answer that, but I.
Mr. Recor or Jennifer? No architect. These are volunteer people who've been appointed by this commission to review. And the burden on knowing what zoning is and how it works falls onto us, and that's our mandate. We read these really thick, complicated manuals. So it's not to say there aren't any professional architects that serve on the Planning and Zoning Board. I don't think we have any professional architects that serve here, but I know we have professional architects or people with architectural degrees who work on staff. That's just for technically that I just wanted to clarify that.
Very good. Further commission discussion. Commissioner McGee.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I wanted to, and I apologize ahead of time, I know it's late, but there's a lot to cover. First, I wanted to address, because I had heard about the 1,300 signatures. So I asked our city clerk to bring what was turned in. And I think it's important that we see it because it is indeed one top sheet with 5 signatures and 499 blank pages. So I don't...
Excuse me. Ma'am, I'm sorry, ma'am. I'm sorry. Go.
All I know is this is what we were presented with on the last meeting as evidence to go off of.
Ma'am, please, I'm going to ask. Ma'am, I'm going to ask you once again to please. It is commission deliberations now. I'm going to ask you, please. I'm going to ask you ma'am, I'm going to ask you very nicely to please be quiet. Thank you.
I wanted the clarification as to what was in fact turned in. So that is what was turned in. Whether or not there are other petitions, I'm not arguing that. I don't know what's out there, which leads me.
Miss,
Which
please, please, please. Can I interrupt for 1 second, Commissioner? Thank you. Ms. Lyons, okay. Can you explain the difference between what's been put into the record versus concerning the signatures? I mean, can you address the signature issue that Commissioner McGee is discussing, which I think you can clarify for everybody?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. During the first reading of this, during the first hearing of this item, what was presented and entered into evidence to the clerk is what was provided to the commissioner. That is what's part of the record. That is only what's part of the record at this point. That's what's been entered, and that's what's been given to the commissioner.
So
that is what the record consists of.
Okay, and it doesn't matter what somebody swears to or something else.
Well, that's verbal testimony that could be considered, but the documentation evidence is what has been the copy is what's been provided to the commissioner.
Just wanted to make that clear for everyone here. Thank you. Go ahead, Commissioner McGee. Thank you. I apologize for the interruption.
So, as I said, there may be more, but we're trying to look at evidence. I'm trying to weigh out everybody that has spoken, everyone who has contacted me, every plan I've seen, and other statements that have been made. I wanted to address statements that were made in the anonymous letters to the editor of the Pompano Pelican that said I flip-flopped. When I first saw this project, the 2017 plan, I said it was too big, that too high, too big. In my very first meeting with the developer, which was after the election, I had not had any contact with them ahead of time. At the end of the presentation, that is exactly what I said. It is too high, it is too big. They went back and came back with a smaller plan, a plan that's technically 200,000 cubic feet smaller than current zoning. And when I went to the people who I had spoken to ahead of time, I thought they would be excited about this. I thought they would see that it's a smaller project. They brought the density down so it's the same impact as the current zoning. They've added to the beautification of a park and a sidewalk and a beach and parking spaces. I was obviously wrong on thinking that others would be excited about this. The petitions were out. I received emails that were especially the first round of emails before the last commission meeting, were majority of the opposition emails were a cut and paste format that all cited the 2017 plans. I met with people in the neighborhood. I've heard everyone say it's a hidden neighborhood beach. I even heard one member of the neighborhood who sits on board say, I don't care if my property values go up. And the selfishness of that statement bothers me, as I know the majority of Americans' main source of investment is their properties. I also found it very unfortunate that it's become common as of late for small groups, and this is across the country, this isn't just Pompano, I've read reports on it, of individuals to decide that their feelings for or against a project represent the entire community, and then proceed to create this environment of half-truths, falsehoods, bullying. And this is where I have to look into and I had to soul search for myself, what is our role when judging all these things? And not to get too poli-sci on you, but I go back to what Edmund Burke, who formulated this trustee model of government that we abide by, who said, your representative owes you, this is a quote, your representative owes you not his industry only, but his judgment. And he betrays instead of serving you if he sacrifices it to the opinion. When I looked at the emails that were the cut and paste with the wrong information, all I could think is that the individuals who sent these, and we had one gentleman in the last meeting who stood up and said he signed the original petition, but he wouldn't sign it today for this project. And those individuals who didn't get the correct information, that didn't know what this project is, were robbed of their chance to formulate an opinion. Others were, honestly, I spoke to many people who I met in person who didn't want to speak up in person because they felt bullied. They didn't want to fight with their neighbors. They didn't want to cause a ruckus, but they love the way Pompano is going and want us to keep moving forward. This includes listening to all opinions, all voices, every family member, every friend, every realtor, every developer, everyone who is a part of Pompano gets a voice in this matter and should be able to voice that voice without fear of being bullied, without fear of being heckled at the podium, without being afraid of their own neighbors. We are a growing city, and there are many projects coming down in the next few months. And I ask of everyone in our town that we raise our city of Pompano to a level of decorum and just in our discussions that is considered the standard that other cities in this county, the state, and this nation strive to meet. And that's my stance.
Thank you, Commissioner. Further commission discussion? I just got a couple of things. I just want to point out that, it's park access. People have talked about this developer is going to make this a private park. That's not the case. It's a City of Pompano Beach Park, and it will remain a City of Pompano Beach Park, and any attempt to block any access, of course, will not be tolerated by the city. That is a city park, and it's going to remain a city park. I have looked at this issue and on a lot of different levels, and there are a lot of people who have signed petitions and things of that nature, and I understand that. Whether it's 1,300 or 130 people showing up here, I understand the opposition, and it does exist out there, and I'm certainly not denying that opposition. It is a nice project. It really is beautiful. I said it before, and I still say it. It's a beautiful project, but not in that spot. It's just not compatible with that park being right behind it. I think it's just too large. I wish it was someplace else. And it's not, and it's not really even just the small lot size in my mind. I may be disappointing some people out there, but it's not really that. It's more where it's at. But some of the intonations that some folks made as far as campaign contributions and all things like that, that's just I've been up here a long time. People throw that kind of stuff out all the time, but that's not the case. Everyone who's up here, we're voting what we feel is best for the city of Pompano Beach. If it was strictly on campaign contributions, I'd be voting yes. I'm sure Mr. Skaversky and others out there have checked the campaign reports. I've gotten campaign contributions from folks, lots of folks. So any suggestion that dictates someone's vote is just that's absolutely plainly wrong. That's what I'm saying. Anything, Vice Mayor Moss?
It never ceases to amaze me why some people come here and try to convince us to change our mind or to make a decision one way or the other. And you come here doing it being arrogant, rude, noisy, and now lying, submitting into the record 500 blank pages when you swear that it is a petition with 1,300 signatures on it. As far as I'm concerned, when you pull stunts like that, it makes it hard for me to consider your position. You ought to be thoroughly ashamed of yourself. Thoroughly ashamed of yourself. So in the future, I would suggest that if you want to come here and try to convince us, as to your point, you don't do it by being insulting, by being threatening, by being noisy, and by behaving like rude people. So moving forward, word to the wise, be polite, be nice, and we're going to be more inclined to listen to you than all of this cat-like behavior. Thanks.
Commissioner Eaton?
Yes. So just briefly, I want to just go over a few things. I used to live up at Hillsborough Shores for many, many years, 25 years, as a matter of fact. I've been involved as a political activist. I've run for office prior. in District 1 years ago. I was also part of the group that was advocating for the CRA at the inception of our CRA. And there were a lot of people, and some of I recognize in this room, who were against the CRA, who didn't want to change. They liked it just the way it was. But we prevailed. And now, where are those voices? Oh, we love it. Atlantic Boulevard, Atlantic Avenue, the beachscape. Hey, change is difficult sometimes. And, I also ask when I consider these things, if not this, then what? Really? A monolithic block? Well, I'll tell you a little story that I was active in my community. It was the old Tales restaurant up at right behind the fishing fleet. Well, a developer came in prior to the downturn, of course, and he wanted to put a small boutique hotel. And he needed a zoning changed. Oh, people were up in arms, up in arms, up in arms. Why, Rhonda, would you support such a thing? I walked that neighborhood, created a letter, gave a logical explanation why it should be supported. And the reason was because with a small boutique hotel, there's accountability. People give their driver's license and their credit cards. They're there to relax. They're there to check in. They're there to sleep. If we hadn't changed the zoning, we would have ended it up with another Shooters, a noisy, loud restaurant where people be parking all through the neighborhood, noise to no end, just like Tail was. So really, the question of, if not this, then what? Frankly, I think you talk about the people who live in the Point, what is that, 25 stories? Water's Edge, Hillsborough Light Towers. Hillsborough Light Towers didn't want anything to be built on the Yardon property because it would have blocked their view. They didn't have a right to that view. You have Tiffany Gardens, 15 stories, with the possibility to have unlimited height, 15 stories. This project is higher only by about 3/4 of the width of this room. Is that really what we're fighting over? And say, oh, we'll just take a monolithic block? Well, that's fine. I don't feel that's in the best interest of the city. And I maintain my positive yes vote on this project. Thank you.
Further commission discussion. Commissioner McMahon?
First off, this meeting's been probably one of the most stressful decisions I've made as a commissioner. I thank everybody that's coming out to oppose the project. I thank everybody that's coming out to support the project. I think this room should be filled at every meeting, and unfortunately it's not until we have a project like this. I just want to go through the reasons I'm currently still supporting the project. The reason is that it'll bring additional public parking to the area. It's truthfully a low-density project. This is a condo ownership. This is not a rental property. And the positive impact on our economy is something that I think is very important. Thank you.
Very good. Further, Commissioner Perkins?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I guess this is a repeat as it was with the last meeting. Of course, my vote is the same, no, because I'm listening to the residents. And of course, I know what it feels like when you have a lot of land, as I do in my district, and a lot of developers are trying to come into District 4 to build only apartments and warehouses. And I know what it's like to be on the other end, because no matter what the people say in my district, and no matter what the people want in my district, you still have people sitting on this dais saying, no, we know what they need in your district. And that's what I've been experiencing. So I've been trying to go along with some of the commissioners sitting up here based on their votes in their districts. But I must oppose this one again. But I just want to say that there have been several projects in my district that I've tried to get passed based on the people, and the answer on this dais was no. So those of you that were clapping, it was a good feeling, because I don't think I've had that since I've been elected. A clap, so you all know what kind of situation I'm in up here. So I can take a good punch, but I can give a good one too. But I just want to say that we must listen to the residents. And I know how I felt when they built those 77 homes just blocks, well, not even a block from my house. And I have to receive it because it was something that was put together before I was elected, but I'm still concerned about the traffic. But, you know, we have to endure that. No matter what the residents said, this dais, they wanted it. This commission wanted it. So we're just stuck with it. So there are a lot of things in my district, District 4, that I have tried to pass on this dais that the commissioners will not even listen to. The answer is just no. So I understand how you all feel. I listened to everybody that came up and spoke, but if it's something next to my house or close to my house, I would be very passionate about what's going to be built next to me or across the street. So I do understand, and my vote is still no.
Very good. Thank you. Further commission discussion? Seeing none. Ask the leader to call the roll.
Commissioner Eaton?
Yes.
Commissioner McGee?
Yes.
Commissioner McMahon?
Yes.
Commissioner Perkins?
No.
Vice Mayor Moss?
Yes.
Mayor Harden?
No. Very good. At this time, I'm going to suspend our quasi-judicial proceedings, and I'm going to ask for a motion to take item number 27 out of order for the convenience of the public.